Greetings friends, and welcome to a new video review series. It's called the What's Smoking Hot 2020 video review series. Look, and as the title suggests, I'm going to be looking at cigars that are smoking really well out of my humidor in 2020. I'll be giving reasons why they're smoking well and providing some background knowledge, some context into those cigars to provide you some more information about those cigars and as to basically why they've reached the point that they've come to now and why they're smoking well so now. I can tell you in general, cigars, Cuban cigars from 2019, 2020, look, they've never smoked better. And the reason I say that is because if we compare cigars to say 5, 10 years ago, I don't remember a time in that time where so many cigars are smoking so well within 12, 18 months, even 6 months. Even some of the cigars that have been special editions, I've never known so many special releases that have smoked so well, seemingly straight out of the box. Today I'm going to look at the Cohiba Medio Siglo, and look, I've gone ahead and cut it, but I was taking some cold draws, testing the draw itself, and it's just perfect, and the flavors on the cold draw, just beautiful, beautiful refined hay. I'm really looking forward to lighting this up. So I'm going to do that now and come back and talk further about the Cohiba Medio Siglo. I've just taken my time to light that up fairly evenly, and what can I say? First few puffs are glorious. And I'm getting that very distinctive honey and I guess what people that come from Commonwealth English Commonwealth countries call biscuit, and the Americans would call cookie, like a biscuit texture and honey and hay consistency straight off the bat, and that's what I'm looking for. Now it seems to me every single Cohiba Medio Siglo that I've smoked in 2020 shares the same characteristic that this cigar shares, and that is plenty of smoke off the draw. Every puff has got plenty of flavour, plenty of smoke, and because of that, they smoke a lot longer than what you give them credit for, or what you think they're going to smoke for. So, look, I always allow about 60 to 70, maybe 75 minutes actually, to smoke this cigar, and it's only 4 inches long. But we'll talk more about the flavours and the dimensions of the cigar a bit later in this review. But what I want to talk about right now is I want to give some background information about the actual release. The Cohiba Medio Siglo came out in 2016. Now it came out in the Linea 1492 series, which are all those Siglo cigars, if you're familiar with them. And if we go way back to the early 90s, the Siglo series came out because, for want of a better word, Habanos SA needed a very quick replacement to replace the Davidoff Chateau series that would be made out of El Guida factory. At that time, they had their Cohiba cigars, but Davidoff still had that premium marker status, and Cohiba wasn't marketed as the premium marker that it is today. It was heading that way. It was just coming out of its, I guess, its diplomatic status, and it wasn't until Cohiba was made well known to the public around the 1982 World Cup in Spain, believe it or not, and it took about 10 years until the Siglo series was announced in 92 and didn't come out till 93, 94 that Cohiba started to become the premium marker. That was necessary to replace Davidoff. Also, some releases in '89 helped, such as the Escondidos and the Robustos. That helped to further promote the brand. But when the Siglo series came out in 92, announced, and then 93, 94 came out, it was just the Siglo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which aligned closely to the Davidoff Chateau series. And the thinking behind why they were called Siglo and Siglo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is Siglo in Spanish means century, and each cigar represented one of the 100 years or the 500 years since Cuba was founded by Christopher Columbus in 1492. And hence, if you do the maths, it was announced in 1992, 500 years. Now, when the new century came out, a few years after that, in 2002, there was another addition to the Siglo series, the Cohiba Siglo 6. And look, for want of a better term, the Siglo 6 really turned Cuban cigars on its head. It was a groundbreaking release, which I've discussed further in the Cohiba Siglo 6 reviews that I did earlier this year, which if you want to have a look at, get some more information about why that is, you can look at those two Siglo 6 reviews that I did. One was a 5-year-old Siglo 6 and one was like a 14-year-old one. But that one came out in 2000, and now again, announced 2002, came out in 2003. And this Medio Siglo was announced probably around late 2015, early 2016. I know it came out in 2016. Medio means half, so the name of the cigar it means half a century. And what does it commemorate? It commemorates the finding of Cohiba being named as a brand in 1966, because believe it or not, Cohiba was around as a marker, but it was an unnamed. The Lanceros and the Coronas Especiales were unnamed Leggero number ones, Leggero number twos that were rolled for Fidel Castro's personal use and for diplomats for the first 2 or 3 years until the brand got a name in 1966. And when it was released in 2016, Habanos SA said basically, explained that Medio meant half, Siglo was century, commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Cohiba brand. And they gave very particular information about the release. They said basically that the dimensions of the cigar are 52 ring gauge by 102 millimeter or 4-inch in length, was a reference to two specific cigars. One was the length was the same length as the Perla size Siglo 1, which is also 4 inches or 102 millimeters, but it's 40 ring gauge, so much thinner. And the ring gauge, 52 ring gauge, was a reference to the Siglo 6, which, look, at the time that it came out, was the biggest regular production cigar at the time. Believe it or not, 52 ring gauge. Now we've got bigger cigars than that in regular production, but back then, you know, the 52 ring gauge Pareo, a straight edged cigar. I'm not talking about the torpedoes because they were 52 ring gauge, but they taper off down to, if you cut a Pareo, the thinking is that you should, a torpedo. The thinking is it's 52 ring gauge around the girth, but if you cut it at the head, you want it around the 42 ring gauge mark. But the Siglo 6 was came out and was a 52 ring gauge Pareo, straight edge cigar. It was the biggest cigar. Similarly, this cigar was the biggest Petite Robusto that came out. Now, I'm going to smoke through the first third, and look, I'm really enjoying it. And I'm going to talk more about 52 ring gauge Petite Robusto, what that means, and what those references to Siglo 1, Siglo 6 mean when I smoke through more of the cigar and also discuss the flavours. So I've smoked through a bit more of that, and look, the ash length is as usual, fantastic, and the ridges are great. And look, I'm really enjoying that. I'm going to put that down and talk a bit more about this release, the references to the Siglo 1 and Siglo 6. A lot of aficionados compare this cigar to Cohiba Robusto, and look, they're quite right to do that because Cohiba Robusto is very close in ring gauge. It's 50 ring gauge, or 1/32 of an inch in circumference smaller, and it's just under an inch bigger. So it's about 124 millimeters long. So I think it's 4 7/8 inch, 7/8 of an inch longer. But in my mind, the Medio Siglo, from Habanos SA's point of view, I feel was always a reference in the Siglo series to a diminutive Siglo 6, and I'll explain why that is. First of all, when the Siglo 6 came out, that was the largest straight edge pareo cigars. Not cigars that aren't torpedoes or Cohiba, double figurados. So we've got that reference. The size of it was a reference to the Siglo 1, as we mentioned before. Most importantly, it's the biggest cigar in the Petit Robusto range, and the reason I mention that is because there's been phases in Cuban cigar history as to what is the quintessential Cuban cigar. And if we go back to the 70s, 80s, it was the Coronas. Every market had a Coronas. That moved on to the Marevis, or the Petit Coronas. Think of a Monte Cristo 4 size. Early 2000s, the Robusto really came into its own, and we'll discuss that more when I do a few Robustos in this series. And then probably from the first Petit Robustos onwards, the late 2000s to around the 2010 mark, early 2010 mark, Petit Robusto releases seem to come out much more regularly, and I think in Habanos SA's mind, Petit Robusto is the quintessential Habanos cigar. A bigger ring gauge, smaller size, the type of cigar that they think that most aficionados are going to reach for when they want to smoke something around the 50-55 minute mark, maybe an hour. The other reasons I think of it as a comparison to the Siglo 6 is because this Petit Robusto is the biggest ring gauge in all the Petit Robustos. And in terms of flavors, when they're smoking really, really well, to me they have the signature characteristics of Siglo cigars, which are, that quality hay and honey. But they also share the characteristics of a quality Siglo 6, which is something akin to like mocha coffee and a buttered texture to it. Look, they're just more buttery. That's the best way to explain it. Over the years, great amount of Siglo cigars that I've smoked haven't tended to be as buttery, excepting for me for the Siglo 6. And this Medio Siglo certainly has those characteristics for me. Certainly buttery. This is buttery. So honey, hay, mocha coffee, a buttery texture, and that biscuit nature to it that it's like a Australian confectionery called the Violet Crumble, or I think the UK one's called Crunchy. I think you get that in the US. It's got that sort of that honey biscuit flavour. It's the best way to describe it. When they smoke like this is how you want them. But you must smoke them slow. If you smoke them too quickly, the one characteristic, as I mentioned earlier in the review, is of these cigars is that they tend to be constructed well in the 2019-2020. So if you've got a box code from those box codes, they tend to be constructed well, but they tend to give off a lot of smoke. And if you smoke it too quickly, you're going to get them overwhelm you in the stronger coffee flavors and spice. Or if they're just not smoking on, they're going to be on, meaning on the mark. They're just going to be that coffee and spice, and you know straight away you're not going to get that honey, honey, and biscuit characteristic to it. And buttery, certainly buttery. You're not going to get that. But this is just smoking gloriously. Um, and look, you'd think for a smoking hot series, I should be mentioning what they're like when they're not on. But the reason I chose a Cohiba Medio Siglo, and if you did, uh, if I was to ask um, other enthusiasts, experienced enthusiasts, what's your best cigars of 2020? They might not nominate the Cohiba Medio Siglo, and I think that would be fair enough. This cigar you nominated, and I'm nominated. The reason I'm nominated is because I have a preferential bias towards Cohiba, and what I mean by that is, look, I enjoy them, and when they're not on point, frankly, I enjoy them. And the same can be said for Monte Cristo, and that might not be your preferential bias in terms of which markers are the markers that you can smoke when they're not on. You're still okay with it. Cohiba is like that for me. But when these are on, these are amongst, to me, the very best out of this whole series that I really enjoy. And that is why I've included in this series. And I know that some of you looking at this video today would relate to what I'm saying. I'm still getting wonderful notes of honey and hay and biscuit out of that, and it's coming towards the middle part. So I'm going to pause the video and give my concluding thoughts when I, basically take the band off and I'm going towards the end. I've taken the band off and now I've come to the back half, and look, it's certainly lifted in its strength a little bit, and it still has those quality hay and honey flavors, but it certainly has picked up in the mocha coffee intensity, but still very enjoyable. Still plenty of smoke per draw. And one thing I've noticed, just me personally, is in 2020, this is the one Cohiba that I've stocked up more on than others. And maybe that's because I'm an experienced enthusiast, for want of a better word, and I have my share of Cohiba. So look, I might not need to stock up on the other Cohiba Vitolas, which again, they've been smoking great. Some of them have been smoking great in 2020, such as the Siglo 5 and the Siglo 3, for example, and the ever reliable Cohiba Robustos. But this Medio Siglo, I got to tell you that when it first came out, I was not intentionally, I was initially, that's a better word, skeptical about it, because of the smaller size and the ring gauge. I thought, that it didn't appeal to me when I compared it, say, to the Siglo 1 in terms of smoking time. But after picking up a quarter pack from friends of the Banks, and smoking a few and noticing that they take quite a long time to smoke, and they smoke so wonderfully, I rectified that situation and kept stocking up on them. And look, I've been fortunate. I've enjoyed them. And look, I hope that you've enjoyed them too, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing you next time. As I always say, happy smoking. Bye for now and see you at the next video review.